Okay, now I want to move away now to our discussion and deal with this topic that I have long tried to discuss with you, the business models in pageantry. Kasi uh, there are essentially three di- three pageant business models that is currently very much visible in the Philippines, and in essence, throughout the pageant industry. You have first the traditional pageant system, something that is akin to the Miss Universe Philippines, something akin to the Miss Philippines Earth na pageant system. And then you have the charity organization system, which is pretty much your typical Binibining Pilipinas and Miss World na pageants. And then you have the media conglomerate, which is, I think, the best example would have been, the partnership of the Miss Universe organization with NBC Universal under the Trump era, and the TPN Miss Universe Thailand model that we have nowadays. Now, ano yung mga pagkakaiba ng mga business models na ito? It's essentially the way that the organization are being run, how the revenues are acquired, and what are the limitations of each organizations. Now, let's talk first doon sa traditional pageant system. This business model is the longest, oldest na mga pageant system in existence, because the what do you call this, the traditional pageant system relies heavily on sponsors or on other entities funding it. So yung mga barangay na mga business, yung mga barangay na mga pageants that rely on the LGU funding, yung mga provincial pageants that rely on funding from their provincial governors or from their provincial government system. These are examples of the traditional na pageant system. They are heavily reliant on money coming in from sponsors, money coming from the outside, pouring into the organization. And this system also relies heavily on revenues that can be earned from managing yung mga winners nila, whether it's public appearances, whether it's endorsement deals with brands and companies. They are usually for-profit na mga organization, and because they are a for-profit ang organization, they are taxed. So yung mga revenues nila, by the end of the day, at the end of the year, or at the end of the fiscal year, they have to pay their taxes to the government. That is one of the downsides of the traditional na pageant system. There is always a caveat to it towards the end of the day, especially if you have a national pageant system that relies on sponsorship, that is heavily a business for-profit na organization. At the end of the day, they have to pay taxes. Even perhaps their prizes, unless it is pre-taxed, kinakailangan pang bayaran nila yung mga taxes nila. So there are cases where a national winner, pag yung cash prizes niya is, let's say, nasa 500,000, for example, pwede pang mabawasan yung 500,000 niya na prize winnings if it is not pre-taxed. If the organization does not pay for the taxes for the prize winning. This is a very sponsor reliant or outside reliant na tawag nito na what do you call this? Outside reliant na organization. It relies on people funding it. And this is the reason why marami ang hindi ganon ka-stable in terms of its finances. A way to increase kumbaga yung kanilang revenue is to have merchandise that is sold with their logos on it. They have souvenir programs, they have souvenir what do you call this, souvenir mga merchandise to sell in order for them to regenerate profits. And with that being said, when you have merchandise, then you also have to pour in capital in producing those merchandise. So may konting business acumen that needs to be included there. Another way of earning money from the traditional pageant system is that if you are for example, a business entity na may modeling and may talent management na arm like Miss Universe Philippines, they can earn additional income from the talent management system, which is much similar to what Kun-an revealed during the conference last year, where she illustrated these are the 8 revenue income streams for the Miss Universe organization, and kasama doon yung talent management na portion ng Miss Universe, wherein the Miss Universe for any public appearances gets paid for every appearance fee, and a portion of the appearance fee is funneled back into the organization. Then a portion of that is also given to the Miss Universe winner. The next na business model is to have the charity pageant system, wherein the organization is a non-profit na organization which relies on donors, benefactors from the outside companies that would funnel in money into the charity organization, and has sponsors as well. So ang difference niya doon sa traditional pageant system is that yes, it is still reliant on other entities for its long-term viability. The difference is that they are not heavily taxed, unlike the for business or for profit na the business entity. And this is where the large chunk of the difference is. Kasi if you are not heavily taxed, a difference of 5%, 10% in the taxes that you pay, malaking halaga na yon doon sa matitipid mo as an organization. Because, for example, if you are taxed 30% for your traditional na pageant system, there's a possibility na 0 to 10% lang yung taxable doon sa charity na pageant system. And if, for example, you have something like Binibining Pilipinas, wherein its main its parent organization is the Araneta Group of Companies. The Araneta Group of Companies can funnel in money into the pageant system, but at the same time, the Araneta Group of Companies can write it off as a tax, as a tax loss or as a donation, and therefore, pwede siyang ibawas doon sa taxable na revenue that they can declare. So which means that hindi magiging problema kay Binibining Pilipinas na it is funneled in money, because yung amount that the Araneta Group of Companies will funnel into Binibining Pilipinas, they can write it off later when they are filing for their taxes. So essentially, kahit na nawala ng pera si Araneta Group of Companies, they can write it off as non-taxable income. And the same thing that can happen doon sa Binibining Pilipinas. I hope there are lawyers here who can clarify this further, because yun yung pagkakaintindi ko doon sa relationship na ito. I think the Araneta Group of Companies can write it off as a loss or as a contribution, as a donation, and Binibining Pilipinas does not get taxes on contributions from companies. Because it is a charitable institution. So I think it's a win-win situation for both Binibining Pilipinas and for the Araneta Group of Companies, and for any entity that funnels in donations to the organization. So I think that is something that makes this relationship work long-term. And I think this is a genius way of propagating a pageant system. And that is why, if you're looking at the Miss World organization, they have been so much financially afloat for the longest time, because yung kanilang mga revenues is not taxed, and they can funnel that in back to the pageant organization, whichever is left after donating dun sa mga causes nila. So that is one way of doing pageant business here in the industry. Then the next is that you have a media conglomerate like TPN, with NUT, like NBC Universal before with the Miss Universe organization. The good thing about this is that there are unlimited possibilities in terms of revenue for both organizations. Because if, for example, GMA wins the bid for the Miss Universe, licensing in the Philippines, they can create essentially any content that they can broadcast for profit later on in their channel. Aside from advertising revenue that they can get for the commercials for the finals and even the preliminaries of the Miss Universe pageant, they can even create content, reality show like what JKN said before in in her press conferences as one of the possible income generating activities for the pageant. Aside from that, is that they can partner with multiple advertisers that they have for brand endorsements. Yun yung maganda doon sa media conglomerate, because GMA has a arm that manages talent. And that is very good na career path for whoever wins Miss Universe Philippines under the GMA na licensee, because automatically during her reign and even possibly after her reign, she can be managed by the GMA Talent Center. And that would create visibility for the winner long term. This would have been a great partnership sana with Binibining Pilipinas and ABS-CBN kung buhay pa ang ABS-CBN na franchise, and they have their own management system as well na magandang maging partners sana sila. But with GMA, that is now possible. And I think we cannot discount the fact that in terms of reach, mas malaki ang reach ng GMA because they are the biggest national network here in the Philippines currently. Yung reach nila umaabot mula Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and that is a very kumbaga, that is a very huge market that they can tap in terms of the number of candidates that they can bring into. So in terms of visibility, reach, in terms of value that they can create for the pageant, napakalaki ng possibility, napakalaki nung yung opportunities that a television, a media conglomerate can provide. Kasi hindi lang naman sa television active ang GMA o ang mga media conglomerates nito. They also have social media, and each social media has different reach. Each platform, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, they have different reach. If you put them all together, then you essentially have a very large network that can work for you as a organization. So we need to make sure na naiintindihan natin yon, that these partnerships with media conglomerates does not only encourage visibility for the winner and the candidates themselves, but also it allows progression in terms of careers later on. So if in case, like for example, Miriam Kembao in 1999 became a television host for GMA, several GMA na mga programs, we can also assume that this can happen for whoever becomes the Miss Universe Philippines winner under the GMA licensee. Okay, so I think yun yung three pageant business models that are something that we should look up into, na kinakailangan natin na maintindihan, because if moving forward the business or rather the licensee is being bid by different organizations, we can now have an idea on what are the things that each organization can forth or bring into the proverbial table. So I think that is something na I hope I was able to clarify, because this is essentially a good way of assessing which organization is more likely to have a good impact with the Miss Universe owners and Miss Universe organization.